Ever wonder how trade even works in Fallout's world and the factions behind it? After the Great War, most settlements ended up completely isolated. Roads fell apart, cities turned to dust, and travel became dangerous. But the trade didn't stop. That's where the caravans come in. They're the lifeline of the wasteland, connecting towns that would never survive on their own. If you guys enjoy Fallout, then you're definitely in the right place. We have a bunch on the channel and a lot more to come. Every Tuesday, we're going to be covering every faction in Fallout. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subbing and sticking around. We also recently just released our new Discord. You guys should come join it. We have a pretty cool community growing over there of like-minded people. And of course, I'll be there interacting with you guys a lot better than here on YouTube. You can find a link to it in the description. Thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy the vid. A caravan is usually a small group of traders, guards, and Brahmin loaded with supplies. They move across old highways and cracked dirt roads, carrying food, ammo, medicine, and salvage to wherever it's needed most. Each trip is a gamble. Raiders, mutants, and ambushes are part of the job, and one bad encounter can wipe out an entire convoy. But the payoff keeps them going. A single trade route can keep entire towns alive, or turn a small outpost into a growing settlement. Most caravans stick to established routes, and meet up at trading posts or way stations where they can rest, and there they'll exchange goods with other groups. Over time, some of these routes turn into full-blown trade networks. Settlements rely on these deliveries not just for supplies, but for communication too. News often travels faster by caravan than by radio. These routes are what keep the wasteland connected. The people who run caravans live by reputation. A trustworthy group earns protection, contracts, and loyal customers. A dishonest one might find themselves cut off or hunted down. Deals are made with caps or supplies, but it's that trust that really matters. Every stop, every delivery, and every trade builds that trust, or breaks it. Caravan life isn't just business, it's survival. The guards risk their lives, the traders risk their goods, and the Brahmin haul it all across miles of ruined land. Without them, most settlements would fade away, cut off from any hope of trade or cooperation. They're the arteries of the wasteland economy, keeping civilization from completely dying out. And with all of this, there are some caravan factions, aka companies that have grown large in the wasteland. The things some of them will do to get ahead is pretty insane. So let's start with one that probably most of you have heard of or encountered. The Crimson Caravan Company started in the hub around 2151. Two traders, Dimitri Romera and his daughter Carrie Lee, turned a small hauling job into a real business. The hub was already a trade center, but most caravans were messy and unplanned. Dimitri wanted something organized. He built a group that could move anything if the pay was right. It didn't matter how dangerous the route was. People thought Crimson Caravan was reckless, but their runs came back loaded. By 2162, they had one of the lowest loss rates in the entire region. Their headquarters worked like a real company instead of a scavenger camp. Dimitri and Carrie hired guards on contracts. They paid fair and stuck to a fixed schedule. Caravans left twice a month, on the 3rd and 17th. Guards earned 600 caps per run and 1,200 for a round trip. The company even held 2 of 6 seats on the hub's merchant council, giving them a say in the trade laws. When the new California Republic formed, Crimson grew with it. New offices opened in every major NCR town. Along with the gunrunners, they became one of the Republic's oldest and strongest merchant houses. They moved food, gear, medicine, and weapons between outposts, keeping the Republic supplied. The hub stayed the main office while new supply lines reached east into the Mojave. After the NCR Brotherhood War ruined the gold reserves, NCR money lost trust. Merchants from the hub, including Crimson, helped bring bottle caps back into trade. Their wide network made the cap system reliable across the wasteland. Wealthy families soon invested. The Jamesons from Reading bought shares and used their pull to place Henry Jameson over the New Vegas branch. He gambled and ignored his work. By 2281, the office was failing, so headquarters sent Alice McLafferty from the hub to repair it. She was direct and efficient. As she put it,
"The Crimson Caravan Company has been in business for over 130 years. We're partially responsible for the progress in the NCR."
Alice's branch sat behind walls east of Freeside, with Brahmin pens, barracks, and an office. From there, her teams moved freight through the Mojave. Competition was rough. The gunrunners ruled weapons, the Van Graffs sold energy arms, Cassidy Caravans kept a loyal base, and New Canaan traders covered northern paths. Crimson had to hold its share without starting open fights. Alice relied on deals and buyouts. The worst was her pact with Gloria Van Graff. The mercs staged fake Brotherhood raids on Cassidy Caravans until Cass gave it up and sold. Crimson took what was left and in return helped the Vangraffs strike at the Gunrunners. It worked for a while, but it created powerful enemies. Crimson stayed steady by keeping things simple. Brahmin carried the loads, guards used dependable gear, and on risky routes, the caravans split into smaller teams. Each branch followed the same playbook the hub created years earlier. Timed contracts, wages held until the end, and strict non-competes that kept the company's secrets safe. It was tough, but reliable when other traders worked on favors and luck. The NCR needed safe supply lines, and Crimson needed the Republic's roads and guards. The New Vegas branch sat between California and everything east, so keeping it alive was vital for both. Alice's work wasn't just about profit, it held the whole route together. The company was also looking north to New Canaan. Plans to open a branch there aimed to flood the market with cheap NCR goods and edge out locals, and it fit their usual plan. Use scale and patience to take control over time. By 2281, Crimson Caravan was still one of the biggest names on the road. The hub gave it structure and the Republic gave it reach. Under Alice, the Mojave office recovered, but it faced rivals everywhere. The Gunrunners resented their spying. The Vangraffs turned when profit shifted, and smaller traders feared buyouts. Some endings in the game even mention the Gunrunners taking revenge once the truth surfaces. From 2 traders with a few Brahmin, Crimson Caravan built the NCR's trade backbone. They've survived wars, rebuilt money, and kept the wasteland supplied. By the time of New Vegas, it stood as the company every other caravan tried to match. It is no doubt the caravan company that most people think of when it comes to Fallout. It'll be interesting to see if we end up with some info on them in the TV show. I wonder if their outpost is still there, and if they've grown even more. The water merchants started in the hub before 2161. While other traders moved food or parts, they ran the city's most valuable resource: water. Their entire business came from controlling the hub's water tower and the system connected to it. Whoever owned that tower decided who got clean water and what it cost to move it. That hold made the group rich almost overnight, but it also made them one of the most hated names in the city. Locals said they acted like they owned the hub, and honestly, they weren't that far off. The owner, Darren Hightower, lived in a guarded mansion, and his staff made deals with anyone who could pay, even if it caused trouble for others. At the top, Darren did run the business, but the real day-to-day work came from Martha Rustello, the master merchant. She handled contracts, set prices, and kept the caravans running on schedule. Under her were guards and drivers, along with runners like Leon, Rick, George, and Trent Barrister. Together, they formed the biggest caravan company in the hub. Their control of the water supply forced every other trade house, including the Crimson Caravan and the Fargo Traders, to buy from them. That monopoly meant steady profit, but also constant resentment. The hub's underground boss, Decker, wanted their power and even plotted to kill Darren Hightower to take over the business. It was the only way anyone could break their hold on the tower. Their routes weren't about long-range shipping like Crimson's. They focused on regional deliveries, bringing clean water to settlements around the hub and smaller stops in the wasteland. Because water was heavy and valuable, caravans stayed close to the city and left about every 5 days instead of twice a month. They left on a fixed schedule and paid guards 200 caps each way. The job was safer, but it paid less. While the chance of being attacked was lower, not very many of them liked working under that pay scale. But steady runs meant steady work, and most guards took it because these runs were safer than other houses, and paid reliably. Their influence went beyond the hub's borders though. The water merchants once tried to trade with the Brotherhood of Steel, offering water in exchange for a cache of weapons. When the Brotherhood turned them down, the merchants sent thieves to take the stockpile anyway. Maxon later explained that the raiding party was caught, and the elders voted against a reprisal. The story spread and it hurt their reputation for a time. After that, they kept a lower profile with the Brotherhood. Inside the city, control of the water facility made the water merchants untouchable. The tower stood south of the merchant market and held most of that water supply. Rival houses couldn't move without buying water from them first. People grumbled about the high prices, and smaller traders accused the merchants of gouging everyone. But no one could do much. Even Decker's gang only managed to plot and never take the tower. The water merchants hired enough heavy security to make any raid impossible. As long as the tower stayed in their hands, their power stayed secure. When the Vault Dweller appeared in 2161, the water merchants became part of a different story. Vault 13 needed a new water chip, and the merchants were the group the Vault Dweller could pay to send a shipment. They agreed to send a delivery directly to the vault for 2,000 caps, and that shipment added 100 days to Vault 13's survival timer. Inside the organization, things stayed practical. Caravans hauled water in reinforced tankers and guarded carts. Each run left the hub's water tower, dropped off shipments in outlying towns like Junktown and Boneyard, and then they came back for more. The frequency of their departures, which was every 5 days, kept the water flowing but kept the crews working constantly. While Crimson Caravan was known for heavy defense and long routes, the water merchants worked like a public utility, keeping cities alive. The pay was small, the risks were fewer, and the wealth stayed with the bosses. As we know, that monopoly gave them political power. Controlling water in the desert gave them leverage over the hub council and the other trade houses. Some council members relied on them while others tried to regulate prices. But the water merchants usually got their way. Even the Brotherhood incident didn't slow them down for long. They rebuilt their reputation through constant delivery and strict internal discipline. Their guards were loyal because the company kept them fed, even if they weren't paid as much as the others. By the time the Vault Dweller left the hub, the water merchants were still the city's largest caravan operation. The Crimson Caravan and Fargo Traders might have had wider routes, but none matched the water merchants' wealth or control. Their grip on the tower turned them into the only source of water for the city, and a lot of the surrounding area. Every rival knew it, and every criminal gang dreamed of breaking it. But they never did. When Fallout 1 ends, the water merchants are still in charge and still rich, central to most major deals in the hub. They built this all on water, and in the wasteland, that was worth more than gold. Cassidy Caravans was founded and led by Rose of Sharon Cassidy, better known as Cass. She grew up traveling the waste after her father left and her mother passed away, and she learned how to live off the road. By adulthood, she was wandering between towns across New California, and people began paying her to haul letters and small goods along her route. The jobs kept coming, and Cass soon realized she could make a living doing what she already loved, moving. That's when she built Cassidy Caravans, a small outfit that grew from her solo runs into a named company. Over time, her run stretched from New California into the Mojave. The company stayed small, but earned a solid name for reliability. Her caravans carried food, water, and trade goods through rough territory that most merchants wouldn't go. One of her employees, Durable Dunn, led a separate team under the Cassidy Caravans banner. They regularly did business with the New California Republic and other paying clients along their routes. For a while, Cass managed to take contracts in the same markets as the Crimson Caravan, and operated in Mojave trade where the Van Graffs held sway. But the growing violence between caravan groups and the NCR's lack of road patrols made business dangerous. In 2281, Cassidy Caravans had fallen apart. Cass's company became the target of a secret deal between Alice McLafferty of the Crimson Caravan and Gloria Van Graff, who wanted her business out of the way. Van Graff's mercenaries attacked the caravans using energy weapons to make it look like it was a Brotherhood of Steel ambush. Multiple caravans were hit, including Durable Dunn's caravan near New Vegas along NCR-controlled routes, with evidence tying Van Graff gunmen and a Crimson Caravan guard to the attack. When all of this happened, Cass was stuck at the Mojave outpost, held up by NCR paperwork that kept her from returning north. NCR reports describe the wrecks, most of the cargo reduced to ash from energy fire. Stranded and powerless to act, Cass spent weeks drinking at the outpost, trying to deal with losing everything she'd built. Later on, the courier's arrival gave her a chance to uncover who was really behind it, and to hold them accountable for what they'd done. The company was pretty much finished, unless the courier chose to sell it to the Crimson Caravan. Cassidy Caravans' fall exposed just how ruthless Mojave trade had become. Cass's story shows that in Fallout's wasteland, even honest merchants could be destroyed by greed and power. Happy Trails Caravan Company was a small trading outfit based out of Sacktown, in the northern part of the NCR territory. They ran regular routes on the Little Loop and had a good run to Salt Lake City, competing for business with bigger names like the Crimson Caravan Company. Jed Masterson even mentioned that if the courier shut down McLafferty's Vegas branch, it gave Happy Trails a chance to expand into that market. By 2281, things had turned bad for them. Losing the Salt Lake City run put them in real trouble. The company had lost contact with New Canaan, a key trading partner in Utah, and without that connection, they didn't have many options left. The highway through Interstate 80 was too dangerous without NCR Ranger patrols to keep the raiders away, and the Ogden route would cost more in supplies than it could earn in trade. That left one viable option: sending an expedition through Zion Canyon to reach New Canaan by the way of the Old Mormon Mission. The plan was led by Jed Masterson, one of Happy Trail's most experienced traders. He recruited people like Stella, Ricky, and the courier to make the trip. Their goal was simple: re-establish contact with the New Canaanites and reopen trade line that kept the Happy Trails alive. It was a desperate move, but the only one they had left. Depending on Zion's outcome, Happy Trails either found new success after the Whitelegs were driven out, or they went bankrupt when trade collapsed. The Blue Ridge Caravan Company began as a family trucking business before the Great War, and then later became a caravan outfit. Joanna Mayfield inherited the operation from her grandfather around 2073, back when it still hauled cargo up and down the Blue Ridge Parkway. When the bombs fell and the highways broke apart, Joanna refused to let the family legacy die. She swapped 18-wheelers for Brahman and rebuilt the company from the ground up, keeping those same routes alive. Over the next 25 years, she turned it into a large and dependable trading network across the East Coast. By the 2100s, the organization had offices in Appalachia, while Joanna ran headquarters elsewhere and visited the region often. She managed it with Vinny Costa, her head of operations, and an old family associate from before the war. He had ties to organized crime in his past, but Joanna gave him a second chance and a purpose, earning his loyalty. Together, they built an operation that worked more like a family than a business. Employees looked out for one another, and new hires like Minerva found a home under the Blue Ridge banner. Once the Vault 76 dwellers contained the Scorch Plague in 2103, the group expanded west through the Big Bend Tunnel. It was a dangerous route, crawling with blood eagles, but still safer than traveling over the mountains. Costa led the expansion from the east end of the tunnel, establishing checkpoints inside and working to connect caravans with both Foundation and Crater. Even the settlers at Foundation and the raiders at Crater gave them a pass, since Blue Ridge brought in outside cargo. In 2104, Joanna returned to oversee the Appalachian Division, setting up at the west end of Big Bend Tunnel. That same year, the company ran into serious trouble with one of its other trade lines near Harper's Ferry. Caravans started disappearing in a rail tunnel, so Blue Ridge shut that path down after realizing people were being taken. Joanna tried to keep the issue quiet, which of course drew the attention of the Brotherhood of Steel. This group was led by Paladin Romani, and the two leaders didn't trust each other. Romani suspected human trafficking, while Joanna believed the Brotherhood wanted to muscle in on her operation. With the help of the Vault 76 dwellers, they eventually uncovered the real culprits, Edgar Blackburn and the Hellcat Company. The discovery cleared Blue Ridge's name and proved the caravans were innocent victims. Afterward, Joanna decided to stop expanding and focus on strengthening what she already built. The team established a major pit stop at the Middle Mountain Cabins, now called the Middle Mountain Pit Stop, which became a key hub for traders and travelers throughout the area. Joanna and Costa also made contact with the new responders led by Rucker, adding to their already strong network of allies. Costa later realized the constant expansion was spreading them thin. He shifted priorities to maintaining morale and solving internal problems, usually relying on Vault 76's help to resolve disputes and recover stolen shipments. Trade routes remained dangerous, especially with raider factions and cultists blocking key roads, but the caravans kept moving. They rely on Brahmin over vehicles due to the broken roads and dead reactors, giving the herds top priority on every run. By this point, Blue Ridge was more than just a merchant company. It was an institution. Traders like Carver Timmerman, Eugenie, and Vera Thornburg kept supplies flowing across the region, while guards such as Aries, Libby Wen, and Kieran Kennedy protected every convoy. The network stretched far beyond Appalachia, with merchants operating as far west as Kentucky and south into former Tennessee. The Blue Ridge Caravan Company continues to be one of the East Coast's most dependable trading groups, linking settlements that would otherwise be stuck alone. Joanna Mayfield's leadership and Costa's management turned a family trucking line into a caravan empire, one that outlasted war and raiders through grit and loyalty. But that was a long time ago, and as far as we know, in Fallout 3 and 4, they're not mentioned in those games. Maybe they haven't expanded that far yet, or maybe they just didn't make it. Who knows? Stockton's Caravan Company is one of the main trading groups in the Commonwealth by 2287. It's run out of Bunker Hill by Old Man Stockton, a well-known merchant with deep connections across the region. His trade runs haul goods between settlements, farms, and city markets like Diamond City, Good Neighbor, and Vault 81, usually using pack Brahmin to carry supplies. Stockton manages routes that keep commerce alive across the wasteland. Each convoy is small but organized, usually just a trader and a few guards traveling with a Brahmin loaded down with supplies. Some of these guards are hired guns, but in specific cases, he's hired gunners for security. Two of his best known traders are Lucas Miller, who sells armor, and Fred O'Connell, who handles general goods. Both work directly for Stockton's outfit, and Lucas says they're based out of Bunker Hill. Stockton himself is a quiet businessman, but he's a close ally to the railroad, using his merchants to help smuggle and hide runaway synths moving through the Commonwealth. This network ties into human error, where a caravan is destroyed near Covenant and Stockton's daughter Amelia disappears. The sole survivor can meet Honest Dan, one of Stockton's hired men, who's investigating what's happened to the destroyed trade run. Not everyone under Stockton's banner shares his ideals. Some caravan personnel in the Commonwealth are Institute informants, tipping them off about synth escapees in exchange for caps. It isn't clear if either side knows about the other's agents. which puts the company right in the middle of the war between the railroad and the Institute, without most of its people even realizing it. Old Man Stockton doesn't advertise what his routes are really doing, but their reach across the Commonwealth makes them vital to trade and the railroad's network. He sums it up best himself.
You ever buy anything from Good Neighbor or Diamond City? Odds are it's been delivered by my men.
There are of course lots of other Caravan merchants in Fallout 4, but none of them are really organized by one faction like Stockton is. The Fargo Traders started as the smallest of the hub's 3 trading houses in 2161. They didn't have the power of the Crimson Caravan or the wealth of the water merchants, but their flexibility kept them in business. Rutger, the company's aide, said anything common in one town could be valuable in the next. They hauled nearly anything worth caps: chems, food, Brahmin, and scrap. And that practical approach helped them grow into one of the hub's most dependable merchants. Butch Harris took over around 2156, with Rutger as his assistant. Butch was known as fair and competent, but he couldn't shake off Decker, the crime boss who controlled much of the hub that we talked about earlier. Decker used the company's network for his own operations, keeping Butch as a figurehead. When caravans began disappearing, Decker let him investigate, one of the few times Butch could actually think for himself. Even under Decker's control, Fargo kept a good reputation. Guards liked the pay and steady work, and employees even got discounts at company shops like Beth's Weapon Shop, where Beth ran things her own way. Butch trusted his workers, which made the company look pretty good in a city built on corruption. Their guards were expected to bring their own weapons and ammo, which kept crews independent and well prepared. That policy gave them the reputation for reliability, and even when the Master's army attacked hub caravans, Rutger said the company's losses were only a small part of total business. Their wide trade network kept them stable when others struggled. Fargo was competing with the Crimson Caravan and water merchants, but they focused on safer, smaller routes instead of risky expansion. By 2281, they were strong enough to compete with Crimson for the NCR Army's new armor contract. They weren't as large or industrial, but their survival proved that honest, steady trade could still succeed in the wasteland. From the hub to the NCR era, the Fargo Traders stayed strong by keeping things simple. Butch Harris might not have been powerful, but he built a company that survived corruption, war, and raiders. Proof that simple work could outlast the greed. I figured we would give this guy and the caravans around him an honorable mention. They're not exactly a faction, but more like a group with a singular goal. Before he became the mayor of Canterbury Commons, Ernest Uncle Rowe grew up living and breathing trade. He was raised on a caravan, learning how to barter and make deals from a young age. By 12, he already had a reputation for being able to turn 5 caps into 50 by making smart trades. When he turned 20, Rowe used the money he'd earned from years on the road to found Canterbury Commons with his sister Daisy Rowe. The post grew into a key stop for caravans in the capital wasteland, where merchants could rest and resupply. Rowe's smart planning and fair deals helped the town grow into one of the most dependable business hubs in the area. From Canterbury, Rowe organized investment and protection for Crazy Wolfgang, Lucky Harith, Doc Hoff, and Crow, the 4 main caravaneers who ran regular runs across the wasteland. Each of them operated independently, but they used Canterbury as their home base, returning between runs to resupply. Through the Merchant Empire arrangement, Rowe managed investments and organized protection for their routes, making them safer and the business steady. Unfortunately, Daisy was killed 6 years earlier in a raider attack, and her husband Louis was killed 3 years after that. Their son Derek was left in Rowe's care, and despite the loss, Uncle Rowe kept the caravans running and continued to build the community that they had started together. He gave the individual caravans a place to come together and work as a collective, in a way. That does it for the caravan factions. Let me know what factions you want to see next, and don't forget to join the Discord. We really do have some cool stuff cooking up in there. You can also follow me on Twitter with the links in the description, and of course our TikTok. Thanks again for watching, and remember, enjoyed time is never wasted time, and we'll see you in the next.